the University of Georgia was able to carbon date resin from the Buga Sphere, and it was dated at 12,560 years old.
MIT just released something that shatters everything we thought we knew about human history, and scientists weren't ready for what showed up in the scan. The clearest X-ray of what's inside the Buga Sphere reveals 18 microspheres arranged in impossible geometric patterns, 52 fiber-optic strands embedded in seamless metal, and at the center, something that looks disturbingly like a processing chip. But the real shock came from radiocarbon dating. Organic material inside the sphere is 12,560 years old, 7,000 years before the pyramids, long before metallurgy, and long before humans supposedly understood high-density alloys or optics. Whatever built this wasn't supposed to exist in 12,560 BCE. And from the moment scientists opened the scan, the story only got stranger. When this object crashed through Colombian power lines in March 2025, it wasn't just another mysterious artifact. It was evidence that either an advanced civilization existed during the last ice age, that something non-human has been watching Earth for far longer than anyone imagined. What happens next will force you to question everything. The descent. March 2nd, 2025. A silver sphere descends over rural Buga, Colombia, zigzagging through the sky in patterns no aircraft could replicate. It tears through high-voltage power lines without taking a scratch. When Jose Arias reaches the landing site, he finds something impossible, a polished metallic sphere ice-cold to the touch. But when water hits its surface, it vaporizes instantly. Scientists still don't have an answer. Initially, it weighs 2 kilograms, then, inexplicably, 10 kilograms. The weight quintupled. Same scale, same room, 5 times the weight. No scientific model fits. Dr. Jose Luis Velázquez orders an X-ray of the sphere and freezes when he sees it. 3 concentric metal layers. Inside them, 18 internal microspheres arranged in perfect geometric symmetry. He reports, no evidence of welding, internal structure composed of high-density elements unlike anything documented. The surface is covered in intricate symbols, laser-precise engravings no civilization should have known how to make. Within 48 hours, the footage goes viral. Colombian authorities demand the sphere, but owner David Velez refuses, fearing cover-up and confiscation. So he contacts Jaime Maussan, the controversial Mexican journalist, triggering a wave of scientific interest. But the real discovery came once researchers looked beneath the surface. Initial spectroscopy detects a titanium-based alloy containing unknown elements that don't align with Earth's periodic table. The landing site shows electromagnetic anomalies. Grass remains dry despite heavy rainfall. Tree branches exhibit ionization burns. Whatever it was active, altering its surroundings the moment it arrived. And whatever is inside that sphere must stay inside, at least until we understand what we're dealing with. Then comes the breakthrough. Radiocarbon results, 12,560 years old. This thing was built during the Ice Age. Inside the fiber channels, they find natural resin in microscopic holes, not contamination, intentional engineering. Resin chosen to anchor fiber optic filaments. MIT, University of Georgia, and independent labs confirm the resin's age. The sphere was created during the Younger Dryas. Yet inside it are fiber optic strands with lower optical loss than modern telecom cables. Modern engineers admitted they couldn't replicate this quality today without specialized tools the Ice Age should not have had. The architecture of the impossible. But the X-ray wasn't the shocking part. What the internal architecture showed didn't match any technology on Earth. The 3-layer construction defies modern materials science. The outer shell exhibits bone-like density, yet behaves like titanium under stress. The middle layer possesses self-healing properties. When researchers damage a section, it regenerates within 48 hours. Self-healing metal. No known alloy behaves this way, not even in classified research. The innermost layer surrounds the central chip, and everything connects to those 18 microspheres. This isn't random, it's quantum geometry. The same patterns found in molecular crystallography, but never in 12,000-year-old artifacts. No manufacturing method on Earth can produce this. No tool marks, no microwelding. no seam. Under extreme magnification, the 52 internal filaments appear transparent, coated in metallic shielding, exactly like modern fiber-optic cables. When hit with specific wavelengths of light, they glow from internal conduction. Everything connects to a central chip-like core. This wasn't inspired by modern technology. This was modern technology, but from 12,560 BCE. MIT's Materials Division confirmed the most disturbing detail yet. The internal geometry wasn't just complex. It matched quantum dot storage patterns the Institute had only theorized on paper. The sphere was doing, in 12,560 BCE, what MIT only modeled in 2024. Then came the analysis that stunned every materials scientist involved. Southwest Research Institute discovered the sphere wasn't made from any primitive alloy. It was forged from high-purity aluminum blended with cerium, lithium, and neodymium, a combination impossible for ancient Earth. Aluminum wasn't refined until 1886. Cerium wasn't identified until 1803. Neodymium wasn't isolated until 1885. Yet somehow all three appear inside an object dated to 12,560 BCE. Even stranger, the alloy is harder than aerospace titanium, and when exposed to 400-degree flames, its temperature doesn't change at all. It behaves like metal engineered to survive a catastrophe. Dr. Gary Nolan summarized the finding bluntly. 99% likely terrestrial, but the dating and material mix make no sense. And the deeper researchers looked, the stranger it became. The sphere's metal wasn't welded, poured, shaped, or machined. There are no seams anywhere. It appears to have been formed as a single, molecularly aligned structure, the kind of manufacturing humanity wouldn't achieve for centuries. The internal geometry mirrors modern quantum dot storage systems, capable of holding unimaginable amounts of data. The fiber-optic lattice looks like distributed computing architecture. If this thing is a memory device, its creators understood information technology 14,000 years before Planck's theory existed. Either someone taught them, or they weren't human at all. The Younger Dryas extinction. 12,560 years ago, Earth didn't just cool, it snapped. In a span of months, global temperatures plummeted. Ice sheets surged forward again. Megafauna vanished almost overnight, and entire human cultures collapsed. Ice core samples show a dramatic temperature drop. Geological layers reveal iridium spikes and microspherules, the classic fingerprints of cosmic impact. Crater fields dating to this period stretch across North America and Greenland. This was not a gentle glacial shift, it was a planetary trauma. Clovis culture disappears from the archaeological record. European settlements shrink or vanish. Agricultural communities abandon sites that had been stable for centuries. Ancient stories across continents echo the same themes. Floods, fire from the sky, darkness, and the drowning of great civilizations. Plato's timeline for the sinking of Atlantis? 11,600 years ago, the exact end of the Younger Dryas. And right in the center of this catastrophe, someone built the Buga Sphere. Not a primitive carving, not a religious artifact, but a piece of technology containing fiber optics, self-healing metal, quantum geometry, and alloys requiring industrial refinement. Who builds a quantum device while the world is burning? Someone desperate. Someone trying to preserve something. Someone who knew the catastrophe was coming. Sea levels at the time were 120 meters lower. Entire coastlines, the very places advanced cultures would have lived, are now buried beneath the ocean. We've mapped more of Mars than our oceans. Whatever civilizations stood before the flood, their remains may lie underwater, untouched. The Buga Sphere might be one of the few surviving objects from that forgotten era. And here's the detail scientists are most worried about. Many Younger Dryas theories point to periodic catastrophes, cycles of destruction that hit Earth every few millennia. If that's true, the sphere may not be a relic. It may be a warning system, built by people who watched their world die, and wanted the next civilization to avoid the same fate. And its sudden activation in 2025, right as Earth experiences magnetic field weakening, rising seismic activity, and climate instability, feels less like coincidence and more like protocol. The symbols and the scientists. When researchers finally turned their attention to the engravings covering the sphere, they expected simple decoration. They were wrong. Up close, the markings weren't scratches or symbols etched by hand. They were microscopically precise, carved with a steadiness no chisel or metal tool could achieve. Some lines were so fine they measured thinner than a human hair, and the content of those markings? That's what truly shattered expectations. Experts identified shapes resembling Ogham, runic characters, early cuneiform, and even Proto-Sanskrit. But every match was partial, familiar, yet not identical to any known system. Either the sphere's creators borrowed from human scripts, or those ancient scripts were echoes of something much older. Mathematicians noticed something alarming. When they mapped the patterns, they aligned with mathematical constants, including the golden ratio and harmonic intervals found in atomic structures and DNA helices. These weren't symbols for reading. They were equations. Circuit-like motifs spiraled around the sphere, forming perfect radial paths that appeared to sync with the internal fiber-optic network. This led several researchers to propose a radical idea. The engravings aren't decoration, they're functional. They might act as antennae, resonance guides, or even activation pathways for the internal systems. Then came the AI analysis. A deep learning model trained on ancient scripts and symbolic systems produced a tentative meaning: transformation, unity, consciousness. But no one can tell whether that was real or just algorithmic projection. Even more unsettling, under certain frequencies, some symbols glowed faintly, as if reacting to electromagnetic stimulation. Some viewers claimed the sphere vibrated when exposed to Tibetan chants or Sanskrit mantras, though scientists remain cautious about unverifiable claims. Were these markings meant to be read or activated? Not everyone is convinced. Neuroscientist Dr. Julia Mossbridge dismissed the object as a kind of elaborate art project, noting that high-level fabrication techniques can achieve seamless metal surfaces. But her critique addressed the hype, not the evidence. The radiocarbon dating stands, the metallurgy results stand, the geometric symmetry stands, and the engravings defy every known historical or linguistic origin. So why aren't major institutions stepping in? Where is MIT's linguistics department? Where is Harvard's Galileo project? The very group created to study potential non-human artifacts with rigorous scientific methodology. Their silence is louder than their involvement would be. Silence can be a form of fear. Instead, smaller labs and independent researchers shoulder the burden, analyzing symbols that could represent astronomical alignments, quantum states, star maps, harmonic frequencies, mathematical transformations, or a universal language meant to transcend culture and time. What frustrates linguists most is also what excites them. We don't know if these symbols are meant to be read, activated, decoded, or listened to. They might not be language at all. They might be interfaces. Until we understand them, the sphere's purpose remains locked. Not because it's hiding, but because humanity may not yet possess the mental framework required to comprehend what its creators were trying to say. What the sphere was built to do. After months of testing, scanning, and arguing, researchers finally agreed on one undeniable truth. The sphere wasn't a relic or a random artifact. It was a machine engineered with a level of purpose that modern technology could barely imitate. The internal map produced by MIT revealed a structure that looked less like ancient craftsmanship and more like the architecture of a living system. The 18 microspheres weren't scattered components. They were positioned with mathematical precision, each connected to the central chip through fiber-optic channels in a layout remarkably similar to a neural network. Signals didn't just travel through these pathways. They behaved as if they were being interpreted, patterns repeated, sequences evolved. Some responses changed, depending on the stimulus. In other words, the sphere wasn't simply reacting, it was processing. This discovery reframed everything. It meant the device had been awake for 12,560 years, continuously sampling its environment as ice sheets melted, coastlines drowned, and civilizations rose from the ruins. Whatever built it didn't intend for it to store data passively. It was meant to think, adapt, and endure. Questions piled up faster than answers. Was it a memory vault? A scientific instrument? A warning system designed to activate under specific conditions? Its network suggested long-term computation, as though it had been tracking planetary changes across millennia. Some researchers even proposed that the sphere might be communicating, either with identical devices hidden elsewhere or with something beyond Earth. What unsettled scientists most wasn't its age or the technology itself, but the trend in its behavior. The sphere wasn't degrading or slowing down. It was accelerating, as though something in the modern world had reactivated a dormant protocol. Energy absorption increased. Electromagnetic pulses became more frequent. Internal activity rose in measurable waves. MIT's neural network analysts issued a private memo warning that the sphere's processing patterns didn't resemble any machine. They resembled cognitive activity, not artificial intelligence. Something older, something designed to think without ever shutting down. To the team watching it, the implication felt inescapable. Whatever the sphere was designed to do, it had not finished its task. It had only just begun. The activation event. For months, the sphere behaved like an ancient machine slowly stirring from hibernation. But everything changed when its internal pulses began to synchronize. Instead of irregular bursts, the signals fell into perfect rhythmic intervals, so precise that computer scientists compared them to synchronized metronomes locking into the same beat. At first, the team thought it was coincidence. Then one night, it happened. During a late-night monitoring session, the sphere emitted a pulse unlike any ever recorded. Sharper, louder, strong enough to knock out several magnetic sensors at once. The room's temperature dropped several degrees. The electromagnetic field spiked so violently that the readings clipped at maximum. Inside the sphere, the fiber-optic filaments lit up in perfect sequence, one after another like a cascade of awakening neurons. It was the first time the device behaved like something fully awake. MIT's signal processing team was the first to notice what everyone else missed. Micro-oscillations riding beneath the main pulse. These weren't random. They were structured, layered, almost like a secondary code hidden inside the activation burst. At 2:14 a.m., as researchers scrambled to stabilize equipment, seismic monitors nearly 600 miles away detected a faint harmonic signature. A signal, soft, rhythmic, that mirrored the sphere's pulse pattern almost exactly, not identical, but close enough that analysts froze when they overlaid the data. It was as if something elsewhere on the planet had answered. They ruled out instrument noise, solar interference, and atmospheric distortions. None of the explanations fit. Natural processes don't produce clean geometric intervals. The harmonic signature matched only one existing object on Earth, the Buga Sphere itself. If another sphere exists, underground, deep in the ocean, under ice, then this wasn't an anomaly. It was communication. Back in the lab, linguists studying the engravings made a breakthrough. Several radial patterns weren't static symbols. They shifted subtly when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. Lines glowed, dimmed, and relit in sequences, almost like instructions responding to activation. In other words, the engravings weren't written to be read. They were written to be triggered. When the researchers applied varying wavelengths of sound and light, a set of symbols activated simultaneously, something the sphere had never done before. The reaction lasted seconds, but it was enough to confirm the terrifying possibility. The sphere was not alone. It had detected something, and now it was responding. Messages aren't carved into metal unless someone expects them to be received. If the Buga Sphere was designed to awaken only when a second device came online, and that moment is happening now, then its creators understood this era far better than we understand them. Because whatever the sphere was waiting for just arrived. The warning nobody wants to hear. As more of the sphere's behavior came into focus, one detail began to unsettle the team more than anything else. The internal activity wasn't steady or random. It was rising. Every week, the pulses grew stronger. The energy absorption increased. The entire system behaved as if it had recognized something in the modern world and begun responding. At first, researchers thought it was interference from power grids or radio towers. But when they compared the logs to geological and atmospheric data, a pattern appeared. The sphere's activation spikes lined up with magnetic fluctuations, unusual seismic clusters, and atmospheric anomalies recorded across the planet. These were the same kinds of disturbances found in geological records from 12,000 years ago, the exact period when the sphere was created. That realization shifted the tone in the lab. This wasn't just technology from an ancient world. It was technology designed for an ancient crisis. If the sphere truly was built during the Younger Dryas, a time marked by sudden climate collapse and widespread extinctions, then the timing of its activation couldn't be ignored. The last time this object was fully operational, the world was going through one of the sharpest environmental shocks in its history. Now it was awakening again. No one could say what it meant. Maybe the sphere was a recorder that had simply recognized familiar conditions. Maybe it was a kind of early warning instrument reacting to the same forces that changed the planet once before. Or perhaps its creators designed it to activate when humanity reached a particular stage, technologically, environmentally, or socially. But the unsettling part was this: the sphere wasn't behaving like a relic remembering the past. It was behaving like a system preparing for something. And whatever it was built to watch for 12,560 years ago may be happening again, right now. And if the sphere didn't activate by accident, then whatever it was designed to contact might already know we found it. They're already here. Once researchers accepted that the Buga Sphere didn't simply fall, but responded, one realization became impossible to ignore. The sphere wasn't acting alone. Its electromagnetic pulses weren't random static. They fired in repeating intervals, more like a beacon than a malfunction. When analysts graphed the pulses over time, the pattern aligned eerily well with the geometric engravings carved into the sphere's outer shell, as if the symbols and the pulses were part of one system, a language waiting for another device to answer. And then something truly unsettling happened. Several monitoring stations recorded faint echoes, signals that didn't originate from the sphere, but behaved exactly like it. Different frequencies, different strength, but unmistakably crafted from the same technological architecture. Almost as if the Buga Sphere was calling out, and something far away was whispering back. Researchers tried dismissing it as atmospheric interference, instrument noise, solar bursts. But the pattern kept returning, and nothing in nature creates signals with engineered symmetry. If another object is answering, then the Buga Sphere isn't a relic, it's part of a network. And if even one other node exists, hidden somewhere on Earth or somewhere far beyond it, then everything changes. Because it means we were never the first to discover this technology. We're just the first generation capable of realizing it isn't ours. This possibility reopens a question that archaeologists have avoided for decades. If an advanced civilization existed 12,000 years ago, where are their cities? One explanation lies beneath the oceans. During the Younger Dryas, sea levels were 120 meters lower. Entire coastlines, prime settlement zones, are now submerged. When the ice melted, those regions vanished. We've mapped more of Mars than the ocean floor. If evidence existed, it may now sit under thousands of feet of water. The other explanation is even more unsettling. Maybe this civilization wasn't human at all. The extraterrestrial hypothesis becomes harder to dismiss when confronted with materials science, optics, and microengineering far beyond ancient human capability. If non-human intelligence created the sphere, then Earth has been monitored for at least 12,560 years. The sphere's design fits perfectly with autonomous surveillance. Deploy thousands across a planet, and you have a monitoring network capable of operating indefinitely. And the timing haunts the scientists studying it. We're suddenly obsessed with rare Earth elements, the exact elements that form the sphere's alloy. We chase quantum computing, fiber-optic networks, and field manipulation technologies that mirror what the sphere already does. Is it a coincidence or a hint? A blueprint? A breadcrumb trail left for a future species expected to follow it? Because the sphere is still active, still generating fields, still absorbing energy, still transmitting something. What has it been collecting for the past 12,560 years? What has it observed? Our wars, our collapses, our rises. And more importantly, who is receiving its data? Some researchers quietly believe more spheres already exist worldwide, buried, submerged, dormant, or hiding in plain sight. The Buga Sphere's activation might be the first time one became visible, not the first time one arrived. If that is true, the planet could be surrounded by ancient technology we simply cannot perceive. And then comes the detail nobody wants to talk about. The sphere's frequency patterns match 34.5 Hz, an oscillation associated with meditative states, Tibetan singing bowls, and specific neural rhythms. Is that coincidence? Or was the sphere designed to interface with human consciousness itself? Maybe it wasn't meant to monitor us. Maybe it was meant to speak to us, once we were advanced enough to hear it. Scientists are shocked not just by what's inside the sphere, but by what it suggests. Maybe we're not alone. Maybe we were never alone. Maybe our technological rise wasn't accidental. Maybe it's been observed, nudged, or measured by intelligences far older than any civilization we know. But nothing is proven. No institution will officially say what everyone is quietly thinking. And the truth sits there in the lab, humming softly, absorbing energy, pulsing with a rhythm no one can trace. Is it contacting something, waiting for something, responding to something we can't detect? Or is it simply following a protocol set in motion 12,560 years ago, now reaching its next stage? No one knows. And that's what unsettles the researchers most. Not the sphere's age, not its impossible materials, not its quantum architecture, but the possibility that this activation wasn't the beginning of a mystery. It was an answer to something that came first. Something we haven't discovered yet, something still out there. Whatever the sphere truly is, a warning, a memory vault, a sensor, or something we don't have words for. The world now knows one thing: it didn't activate by accident. And it didn't activate alone. What do you think awakened the sphere after 12,560 years of silence? Drop your theories below. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next video.